Okay. Hi, YouTubers. This is Florida Singularity, and this is February 2018. Uh, if you are if you're a fan of Star Trek or Harry Potter or maybe even Anne Rice, not it's something along those lines, things that have a huge group following, or Star Wars, you'll find that a lot of people who get into these different kind of things will write their own stories based around the characters and around the universe where these stories take place. It's called fan fiction. I have a concept today that I'm doing. It's called fan fiction recipes, or fan fiction cooking. So today I'm going to be doing a recipe out of the Dining on a Dime cookbook, which is a very great book if you are into frugality, if you need to be in frugality, if you just want plain, basic, simple cooking, good recipes that are time tested. Tara Kellum and her mom Jill Cooper have done that. They put together the great compendium of recipes over the years, and they are Mike Kellum approved for the most part, I think. So he enjoys those. If you're unfamiliar with the Kellums, go check out their channel at Living on a Dime. And I'm sorry, Living on a Dime is their website, and Dining on a Dime is the name of the book. Living on a Dime, you'll find them on YouTube as well. So great folks, and you'll want to catch one of their live broadcasts too. They're very fun. It's a great community and a great place to just interact and find out some good stuff. Well, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the recipe. It's very popular right now, Mom's Sweet Muffin Recipe. And what I have done with this is I have modified it to almost like a cornbread recipe. They may even have a cornbread recipe in here. I'm not sure. But what I find that a lot of people that I will either cook for or that I will make food for tend to prefer what I would call the northern style type of cornbread. So it's the kind with a lot of sugar in it. So basically sugary, cornmeal-y kind of cornbread, which I think may also be known as Johnny cake. And I've done this recipe a couple of times, and it's turned out very well. I like it. Think Jiffy Mix. That's a northern style cornbread. And tastes seem to be shifting that's the majority style of cornbread that most people really do enjoy. Growing up in Georgia, cornbread was cornmeal. There was I've seen some recipes where there's like a tablespoon or two of flour in there just kind of help smooth it out, but we didn't add anything. It was all cornmeal and there was no sugar in there. It was a very savory product. And when folks talked about during the Depression era, or my folks growing up talked about eating cornbread and buttermilk, and pinto beans, putting cornbread in a big old glass and pouring buttermilk over it and spooning it out and eating it that way. I think now that's something I think I would enjoy, but growing up I did not like cornbread. I didn't really like cornbread at all growing up, honestly, and I did not really enjoy buttermilk. So, but I think I'd enjoy that. Love pinto beans though, so still enjoy those. But to add another little extra twist to this, I modified the recipe even further from making it into a cornbread or Johnny cake style. And I have added a little bit of seasoning to it that gives it a completely different spin entirely. In fact, it just transforms the entire recipe into something also completely different. So it is, to give you a little bit of backstory on this, and I think YouTube is partly about telling stories, so if you'll indulge me on this, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. We'll get to the recipe in a minute. So, but I went to Israel with a very good friend of mine. We're starting a travel company, and so we went to Israel just this fall. And my friend Joel, who has started this company, it's called P33 Adventures. And I was going to ride to the airport with Joel. And I've known Joel and his wife for about 30 years. I love these folks. And they are just sweet as they can be. And his wife is of Lebanese descent. And when I went to their house early in the morning. Now, typically when I fly long distances or fly period, I have a strange ritual, I guess, of sorts. It's practical, not really a ritual so much, but I do not eat any breakfast at all. If I fly early in the morning, I don't eat any breakfast. I just don't like, the pressure from the cabin just wreaking havoc on me and just making me uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. So I just, I like to fly with an empty stomach, caffeinated, empty stomach. got to their house early in the morning, and I was, and Angel wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of breakfast, and so, of course, I politely accepted. And what she gave me was, she said, this is an old family recipe that even she herself is trying to perfect and still work on. And it is a recipe called Za'atar bread. And of course, bread, you understand the word bread. Za'atar is a spice blend that is comprised of, here it is, in fact I have some here too. It is comprised of oregano, sesame seeds, and a few other things. And one of those things being sumac. I've always heard poison sumac, but apparently not this. This was good. But if you just want to smell it, it just opening this up is just, it brings back now fond memories, because that was my first experience having it. But it was a lovely bit of flat bread, just with this sprinkled on top, and I think there may have been just a little oil drizzled on it. But that with a cup of coffee in the morning, it just created this very warm, because I'm around people I love anyway. So when you're around people you love, that adds an extra dimension to anything that you do and such. But this just created such a warming sensation, just a very comfortable sensation on a cold morning. And it was just and I think it's very calming. I think there's something in these herbs that's also just very, very calming. No, it's not those kind of herbs. And it's where this is oregano, it's sumac, it's sesame seed and other things, but not what you think it is. And Joel, of course, had it in mind, and Angel gave him the task that when we did go to Israel, that his task was to bring back more Za'atar, because it was very harder to find up in Georgia. And so this bag, I bought just a little bit. I wanted to try it at home just to see what I could do with it. And the bit that I bought, it came from the little gift store in Qumran. You know, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. There's a little store there too. Of course, there's, you know, they have a little gift shop there. And then in the gift shop, I bought some of the Za'atar. Later at the shuk, I would wait until we went to the shuk though. But Joel brought some by the pound and brought home, like, you know, probably about 2 pounds worth. And the next time we go in December, he's going to be bringing back probably double the amount, he said. So it's just that good, and it's something that their family uses a lot to season with. So on this recipe, what I have done, my oven's heating up, so I better move my book, because it kind of, my cookbook has a little plastic binding on it. I don't want to melt it, and I don't want to melt my Dining on a Dime cookbook either. In fact, let me chuck that over here. Well, on the recipe, what I've done is I have substituted, basically I've gone half and half on the flour. So it calls for 1 egg, half cup of buttermilk, and what I have done is I've made a substitution there. 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1½ cups of flour, and that's where I've substituted 1 cup of cornmeal for half a cup of flour. I have even done the ratio down to 3/4 to an even half and half. 3/4 cornmeal, 3/4 flour. And half a cup of sugar, and then 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of soda. And you're just basically going to mix those, put them in a muffin tin for 15 to 20 minutes. So, basically, I'm going to find a good place to put this while my oven's heating up. All right. Keep it. Oh, man. Casualty. All right. Get a new spoon. All right. Stunt spoon ready to go. Smaller. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and I've got measured out my cornmeal. So there's my 1 cup of cornmeal measured out. And I am measuring out my half cup of flour. So the cornmeal I don't tend to level out as much. I just kind of measure it and shake it down a little bit. The flour I tend to level off like you're supposed to do. And trying to be expedient, I am using just strictly a 1/4 cup measuring cup, just to keep it consistent without having to make a whole lot of measuring cups dirty. And plus it also comes in handy and for another purpose in just a moment. And now I'm getting out my sugar, and the sugar is half cup of sugar. Well, here is 1/4 cup of sugar, and here is a scant 1/4 cup of sugar. So there is a scant 1/4 cup. Because what I'm going to do is a further experimentation that I hope works. As you see me, I'm getting too dangerously close to the camera and the light. Sorry. Is I'm going to add in, to compensate, just a couple little extra of the Thrive Live honey crystals in that. I have no idea what it will do, but just to round out that sweetness and the flavor a bit. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and blend those together like so. And now I'm going to add my leavening ingredients. So now I got to get my let's see, the baking powder. And this seems like a lot of baking powder, but you know, you need to have a lot of leavening when you've got cornmeal, because cornmeal takes a little bit to get it risen. So there's one, and now we're going for a half. So 1.5 on the baking powder, and back up that goes. My baking soda, I use a lot of baking soda for different things, so I keep a big old thing of it. So, and now baking soda is a 1/2 teaspoon. There's my quarter, so let me get, there we go. 1/2 teaspoon, and we're going to add just about 1/2 teaspoon. And where it says 1/2 teaspoon of salt, I would probably omit the salt for the Za'atar bread, because I do believe there is salt in that. It makes it salty enough. So if you add salt to it, it's just too much. So omit the salt if you're going to do this as a Za'atar version. In fact, I hope the honey crystals work out well with the Za'atar, so I hope they don't kind of fight each other if it's too much sweetness, but I don't see it being bad. In fact, it might even not be enough to make a huge difference at all. And now we're going to, then we got our 1/2 cup of milk. We're going to dump that in. Got an egg. That's the great thing about muffins, is you can be a little bit, not careless, but you don't really have to take a whole lot of consideration into mixing. I think the whole point of muffins and how they came about was that it's a quick bread. It's a nice breakfast food that the whole point is to make them very quickly, and you don't want to overmix either. So in fact, we just want to get these just mixed right up to the point where they are almost, just looks like it's halfway done, like you don't care. So they're just kind of mixed up, sort of like you're being careless. Now, Miss Jill's recipe calls for buttermilk, and of course you know the trick, maybe you've heard, and this is one that Tara teaches, is that if you don't have buttermilk, of course make substitutions, or just make substitutions anyway. Well, I think I did this once using evaporated milk, because I didn't have any other milk in the house, and I didn't want to open up my Thrive Life milk, but I did do that this time. And this is actually the first time that I have ever used non-fat powdered milk. This is non-fat powdered milk, not to be confused with instant milk like you get at the grocery store. I did not know there was a difference until recently. The non-fat powdered milk is not processed to the point where the instant is. So of course this is practically instant. You mix it, it becomes milk, but you do need to let it set for just a little bit, just to have a little bit more of a rounded flavor. The instant milk, which I'm perfectly fine with, I use that for camping. I will mix it up with water, pour it on my cereal, and yeah, it's got that weird taste, but I'm okay with that. I've somehow become adapted to that, and that's just one of life's experiences that it doesn't seem to bother me. But I have mixed this up, and I'm not a milk drinker. I don't just, drink milk. But this milk that I use, I just made a little bit. I made 2 cups. It took 6 tablespoons out of that big old thing. I got a whole bunch left. And because I don't go through milk that much, that's perfect for me. Because even buying just a quart of milk, it'll go bad. That's great. It has a little bit of an edge to it because it is an instant product, and no matter what anybody tells you, instant products are going to taste a little bit different because they've been through they've gone through some changes in life there, and so they're gonna be affected by that. But it's got a little bit of an edge to it, but it's still got a nice creaminess to it, and a freshness to it. There's still like a life force to it that's not, doesn't feel like it's been entirely compromised, by, like instant milk just feels dead and weird. Like I said, I eat it and I like it, or, use it and enjoy it, but quite a different experience. So I'm going to put that back in the fridge. And so, but I measured out part of that milk, added a slosh of vinegar to it, and let that be my buttermilk. So now I've got my batter going here. And now I need to add 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Now the double duty on this is measure out my 1/4 cup of vegetable oil in my 1/4 cup measuring cup. In that goes. And now I'm going to use this 1/4 cup measuring cup as my portioner to portion out the amount for my muffins. So now it's good and all greased up, which makes a difference. So let me get that mixed in a little bit. Hopefully I'm not over mixing this still, because I may have done that. All right. And now measuring out my Za'atar. I think it's Za'atar. I don't think there's a liaison between the two. Don't want to make this too crazy, but traditional Za'atar bread has it sprinkled on top. I've worked this throughout the batter just to have it a little bit more worked in. But you see it looks good and herbally and look at all that good stuff. So I've got a heaping ½ tablespoon I'm going to start with. Sprinkle that through, and I'm probably going to leave it at that. So a heaping ½ tablespoon, and now it's, there we go. Taking on a little bit of a different look. I don't know if you can see there, but how it's worked in. There we go. Not going to overstir. So that's, oh, that smells nice. That's good. So now I'm going to portion these out into 1/4 cups. And I am going to level these out. I'm going to be very judicious with my batter amounts. As I'm learning, portion control is key in life. As I'm learning. And plus it also makes for a nice, uniform, consistent product, which that's also something that I appreciate. And what I typically do with these is I will have these for breakfast because they're quick and on the go. I can keep them in the fridge throughout the week, and it's just something like I said, can pull out of the fridge, and it makes like I said, for a nice quick break. I can't do two things at once and talk to you, can I? I'm sorry. And just with a cup of coffee, it's just a great little combination. And it also brings back a very pleasant memory of that cold winter morning right before Georgia had a blizzard. So and I'll have some batter left over too, and I'll usually end up making another round of muffins. And I think I'm also going to redo this recipe the right way and just add some chocolate chips to it. So I'm going to actually take the recipe right out of the book. And Tara actually just put up a chocolate chip recipe, but I refused to watch it, mainly because it may be a different recipe for one thing, but mainly because it was a live broadcast, but it was done during the middle of the day while I was at work, so I'm a little bit angry about that. I'm kidding, I'm not angry, but it does throw me off of my schedule. It feels like, the FOMO, fear of missing out. And so Tara's there having live broadcast during the middle of the day. She's making soap, making muffins, and all that kind of good stuff. And I cannot take part in it because I'm at work. And so it just hurts my self-esteem a little bit. That's all. So tap them down. Tap them down. I'm kidding. It don't hurt my self-esteem. All right. So my oven is almost heated up. And we will pop these in the oven. And I'll be back with you in just a moment when these are all done and baked, and I'll give you a little review. Thanks.